What up, folks? Mikey G and NF Mother effing T Nate. I cannot wait to have this
Yo,
conversation, man. Welcome to the show. Been
thank
too
you.
long.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah. So we've been, just a little tidbit, NFT Nate and I have been talking for, man, years at this point, right? Because I heard your name when I was doing the old Hate Beast thing.
Yeah.
What else? Who else was that? Tom?
Tom Young's.
Yeah, Tom Youngs.
Yep.
Is he still around, by the way?
Yes and no. He's doing some stuff, but he's not in Web3, but he's still kind of grinding out.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so it's been that long, and we've been going back and forth, and you had a lot of life things going on, but here we are. And I think this is going to be a really fun conversation because we're both content creators. You're a video producer. I'll get to that in a little bit. I have a design background. I think we're gonna have a lot of really fun content creation, which is the buzzword, right? Everybody
Mm,
wants to be a content creator.
yeah.
But we're also gonna get about your life because I think people also need creativity as a topic as a whole. For me is fascinating in the sense that I think there's still this narrative around creative that you either
Yeah.
have it or you don't, but it's a trained skill just like anybody else.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe
100%.
maybe people might be more inclined to be creative. Totally get that. But the fact that you're told a lot of people from a young age that you're not creative, man, it's a disservice to society and it's
Yeah.
a disservice to people, you know? Don't you agree with that?
No, 100% I agree. Like just a real short thing is like if I was to pick up a camera drone and go out and film like a real estate, like a real estate video, the first
Right.
one's going to be bad. By the time you get to the 10th one, even though I've done it, you'll then get back to it. It's the same thing like hitting the gym. You pick up the weight, so you go for that run, it's going to be bad. 2 or 3 weeks later, you're going to get back up to that. It's that creative thing. Like even if you are at your peak creativeness and then you drop off and you do something different, you come back, that first take, that first shot's not going to be as good, and that takes a warm up.
Right.
Yeah, it's a skill.
And we'll get deep into it. I'm really excited about that conversation. But before that, we're going to do a couple just housekeeping. I had an incredible conversation with Janner from The Plague. He is starting a professional organization called APTA, really for Web3. There's a couple people out there trying to do it, but he's really trying to create a legit professional organization with some accreditations, kind of go through their process, and it makes sure that, you know, you're not a scam artist. You're here with good intentions and you have the background to actually do something
Mm.
effective in Web3. But I mean, we went we went down some paths, you know. We talked about mental health. We talked about having a vanilla upbringing and still being able to be an entrepreneur because this day and age, everyone tells you need to be Elon Musk to be successful or smart or do something interesting. But Janner, fascinating conversation. Check that out. Coming up this week, we are going to be talking to Awardable. So they're the company that I use to do my badges for my space. They're going to be coming on the Plague space. And then another one I'm really excited to. They randomly reached out because I guess someone tagged me on Twitter, but the old co-founder of Oniforce has started a new project called District.
Oh,
111 spots. That's it. And he's
yeah.
looking for the top people in the space. Similar vibe to DSK Dow. I've had Tyler Blue on the show. Fantastic guy. We've become really good buddies. But he's coming on. His name's JR Art Space. He'll be on Tuesday night, and we're going to do a podcast like this. That should be a fascinating conversation as well. You know, this guy went through getting millions of dollars from people in the pocket and then completely, you know, getting fudded, going through the whole thing. So that's going to be a fascinating conversation. So those are the housekeeping items. Oh, and Monday starts my video game podcast, Diablo 4, with my co-founder, Maddie. We're going to start gaming again because we miss it and we're going to have a blast doing that. So I can't wait to do that. Start getting some video games once a week. You're feel free to come on while we're streaming, ask us any questions, or we're just going to chill out and vibe. Well, with that being said, we're gonna do a little formal introduction like we like to do here on Midlife Crisis Podcast. I don't know. I call it Mikey G Midlife Crisis Podcast now. Maddie, my co-founder, he's been busy, so it's been a lot of me lately. But I love doing this, so I don't care who's on camera. But I do care that you're here, Nate, because we're gonna have a killer conversation. But before that, Nate is an interesting case because his professional career actually links up from the creative side. So he does video broadcast editing and he does video content creation for Web3. A lot of times you see people that have regular day jobs and are interested in creative, but he's doing that both to make money in real life plus make money in the Web3. So he does have that, and hence why this conversation is going to be fantastic because he has a lot of background and knowledge. This is actually my favorite tidbit that he gave me. He says, as you get older, when you walk by a yard, sometimes you can get frustrated by a shitty looking yard. And this is that guy. And so he's really gotten into some landscaping and lawn care and gardening. So we can talk about that a little bit too. By the way, random thing. My cousin, he lives in Kansas and he actually has an organic worm farm because apparently worms, I don't know if you know this, are fantastic for soil. Uh,
It makes sense, yeah. Because like, don't they aren't worms in compost and things? So it'd be good at breaking things down and
Absolutely, and he sells worms by the hundreds of thousands to people for gardening.
crazy,
So, that's
crazy.
the thing, apparently, he has a full-blown company on that. I'm actually gonna bring him on a show because I just wanna talk to somebody that has a worm farm for a
Yeah.
living. That should be a good conversation. And like I said, just video editing in general. And with that being said, Nate, did I miss anything? Is there anything that you wanna add there before we go right into it?
No, it's good. Let's just run it. Let's
All
go.
right. So with that, the world famous midlife crisis question. How did you get the seat you're sitting in today, my man? Episode 1, 2, and 3. 1 will be your childhood influences, why the way your mind is molded the way it is. 2, the professional career that we just talked about, video editing and beyond. 3, how did you get in Web3? What are you currently doing? And what are you excited about for the future? So let's start with episode 1, man. I cannot wait to hear it. Hit me.
I think it's like most people would say, like, oh, I think I just had a pretty standard childhood, but it's like pretty standard. Like, I don't know, thing is, I don't know American states and how it is, but it's like pretty kind of like middle class, lower middle class, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
where I think like where it kind of shaped and molded a little bit was liked skateboarding, but not just the actual
Mhm.
skateboarding part, but that's just like you go hang out with your friends after school, you sit around there for 3-4 hours, you're just doing whatever. The skateboarding part was just like the glue that held you together. And then once you get a little bit older, you then start to go out partying and all that kind of stuff with them. But the whole point of like the skateboarding, that was that thing where it wasn't just skateboarding. You had people that rode bikes, scooters, all that kind of stuff, but that's where you hung out. And I think where that kind of leads into the content creation is, what does everyone do? Oh, cool, let's get a video camera, let's start filming our
Yes.
stuff, let's edit up that stuff. And that's where you kind of got into it. And I remember hassling my parents for a video camera, and eventually we got one. And I just loved making videos and stuff. And it's funny looking back because you got a kid going like, oh, can we get a video camera for years and years? And eventually you get him one, not realizing that that's going to be what builds the entire life that he's got around him, like that interest and that intrigue. Because, sometimes kids be like, hey, can I get a particular thing? The parents go, yes. And then a month later, it's just in the bin. But yeah, so like that's where that kind of started. And that's how I think that tied into it, because it's like you're hanging out with your friends, you're making funny videos, you watch something like look, you're of my age, like back when you'd watch something like Jackass when that kind of came on, like
Yeah.
before the movies came out, like people have like CKY, the DVDs and stuff.
Yeah.
You'd sit around watching that, and then you go out and do that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of glad we didn't have the internet like we have it now. Like all the stuff that we would have put up is not there, it's gone. So we're kind of
Yes.
safe in that sense.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And, one of the things that's interesting to me is that skateboard culture, right? I feel like almost that jackass skateboard, like you just talked about, was almost a breeding ground for this kind of home edit video stuff.
Yep.
Do you think it was the influence from the things that you're seeing, or is that just part of the skateboard skateboard culture? Because, like I said, I grew up at the same time.
Mhm.
Everyone that had a skateboard seemed to be into video. Where does that come from?
I think it's just, I, th- I think it was just when you idolized someone. Okay, so the media that we would have been watching was
Yeah,
broadcast media. Like, it was very fed to us, and the only way
right,
you would find something was someone going, hey, there's this cool DVD, there's this cool thing that you'd physically have to get off someone, or someone had burned something, and then you'd
right.
idolize someone that your parents wouldn't know about. Like, it was, I think it was just, it's kind of like when you find a really cool creator or someone on a platform that no one else really knows yet, and you just vibe with them a lot. It's
Yeah,
that kind of like hidden thing. It's like, hey, this is our stuff. And I think it's like, hey, if Bam can buy a Ferrari from making videos, maybe we can do that. And we don't need to sit
yeah,
in an office, sit in a desk. Maybe we can just do some stuff like that and then make it big. And then also going back to like the skateboarding thing, it's like, hey, how do you get sponsored? How do you make a career out of it? We need to make a sponsored tape, which means you need to make content, which mean like, because it wasn't called content then, you just need to make a video. Like, oh, make
right,
some videos
right.
and then it'll turn into something. So that's where I think the mentality came from. Like, hey, if you make a video, you can then get sponsored, you can then become a professional. If you make a video, you then don't have to sit in an office and sit in a desk, like, which is funny because I'm sitting in an office right now at a desk making
Yeah,
content, but you don't need to like do the boring thing. You could do something fun. And that's where I think it kind of came from, not wanting to do what your parents did and do something different, which
yeah.
usually came back to some content in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, and I think we should touch on this later on because it's almost like that was a really interesting period because, like you said, the internet really uh, wasn't obviously what it is today. You're getting fed this broadcast content. There's this counterculture thing going on, and video was a way to express yourself. And camcorders and stuff were getting cheaper and cheaper because when I was really young, they were you had to
Yeah,
have some money to buy one, right?
exactly.
But they were getting cheaper and cheaper. The great, DSLR cameras that we have now didn't exist, but it was starting to be accessible, right?
Yes.
And that was starting to change the content landscape. So that's interesting. I wanna touch on that as we evolve. As far as the skateboarding, I actually have one more other question because I grew up with a lot of skateboarding friends, and it had a bad kinda name, right? Like a lot of skateboarder people in our school or me growing up were kind of like I wouldn't say bad kids, but
Mm,
they definitely had kind of a go against the man type vibe.
yes.
Did you have that same kind of attitude or did you
I
avoid that whole thing?
I personally didn't have that attitude, but
Yeah.
the way that it kind of happened is you had the group of us, but then you had like the little sub groups of it. So you might have a group of like sort of 10 guys, but
Yeah.
then two or three of them, like, and this is like legitimately like a couple of them have ended up in prison because they just went down a proper bad route. They had like
Yes.
ADD, but like they would just like not focus in school, got kicked out before they kind of finished. Then they
Uh-huh.
were just like doing bad stuff. And
Yeah.
then you've kind of got that middle ground where the guys that didn't really finish school but still had enough to kind of focus, they ended up in the trades and they're doing really, really good because
Right.
they're happy to work with their hands and just making hella cash. But they're the kind of people that you can't sit down at a desk, but they'll like you put them outside for 12 hours, they'll be able to just go hard and just do what they need to do. And then you
Right.
have like kind of like you got that spectrum. So yes, you do have that kind of bad side, and then you also have like the kind of good side, but everyone kind of came together, and then you kind of, I think you get that middle ground of like the entire group. But then
Yeah.
obviously once people hit 18, 19, well, over here the drinking age is 18, but once
Yeah.
you kind of hit that 18 adulthood and people start going out, that's when you kind of people start to kind of shift off a little bit because you don't want to be going out to a club or a pub with a guy that legitimately wants to like punch and try to stab people. You're like, cool, let's just not invite that guy. Let's just
Yeah.
us reasonable people go out,
Right.
like
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that, and like it's a funny story. When I was in high school, everyone at my school didn't like riding skateboards, just wasn't a thing. So my friends, because the skate park was in between multiple different high schools, you had all these people from a bunch of high schools, and that was the friend group. And one of my friends' sisters was at my school, and she was like a year or two below. And like I knew her and I was good friends with him. And what ended up happening is one of the school bullies kind of like bullied her a little bit. And my friend came to me and goes, hey, who was the person that bullied my sister? I was like, it's this guy. And he's like, do you know where she lives? I'm like, oh, do you know where he lives? I'm like, yeah, I know where he lives. So All the bad guys got in a van, rock up to the guy's house. I gave him the phone number, called the guy, I was like, hey, come outside right now. And then like just really scared the dude, because they knew that the skateboarding crew from like all the other high schools that were like the sketchier high schools were kind
Right.
of like in a group together. And at
Yeah.
that point in time, that guy just did not want to do anything bad, and he kind of stayed away from me, stayed away from this, like my friend's sister, all that kind of stuff. They didn't do anything to him, but it was
Mhm.
intimidating enough, because you go from being in a school where there's no one doing some bad stuff, and knowing that there's some schools, because we were in like a nicer school in the area, and then
Yeah.
that other school, the other schools were kind of like, they'd always go on lockdowns because people are kind of from another school will go to another and try to beat people up, all that kind of stuff. And when you hear that and a van full of guys rock up, you're like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that. And it's just like, yeah, exactly. So that kind of thing is good. And like, if you spoke to those guys, they're nice dudes, but they know how to kind of leverage that. They're like, hey, we're from this area, we're going to come get you. It's just like, oh no, like just that threatening type thing. But that kind of stuff can't happen nowadays, because someone will take a video of it, someone will post it, go to the
Yeah.
police. Like, you know what I mean? You just can't do that kind of
Or it
stuff.
ends in, like, serious violence. At least here in
Yeah.
America, there's
Yeah,
guns, right?
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and that ends a very different way. But you said
That's it.
something incredibly interesting, and I wanna reiterate this, and I think it's even, we can use the analogy to Web3. There's always these, I went at it like, "Hey, what was your perception of the skateboarding culture?" And like you said, you agreed. There's this kinda, like, bad boy counterculture
Mm,
thing, but then you said something really interesting that this day and age, I think more people need to hear, which is even within these subsets of groups, there's still like the straight laced, good
mm,
kid. There's the nerdy kid. There's the
yeah.
really bad people that end up in prison. There's the, just teenage angst people.
Mm.
And I just wanted to reiterate that because no matter what you're into, I think you can find somebody in the sub pockets. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, 100%. Like it's, yeah, same thing with Web3. You're going to have like the guy that you see it on the timeline that you'll be scrolling, and you'll have someone going, hey, I've just run my first ultra marathon. I'm pumped to do this. And then the
Yeah.
next scroll will be some dude like with some beers, with a joint, going like, hey, just kicking back, having a great afternoon. You're going like, in that one feed, you've gone
Right.
from someone that's extremely disciplined at one thing and
Yeah.
someone that's extremely disciplined at the other. And then if you both check out their feeds, they're both trading the same meme coin. You're like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
going on? So you're Web3, that you might have meme coins, and you've got like the two polar opposites when it comes to like that niche and a niche and a niche.
Right. Yeah, and yet another thing we should talk on content creation, because part of the most critical things you need to do is persona building, right? And everyone, I think, thinks Web3 is so niche. Oh, there's only one persona in Web3, and that's absolutely wrong. There's a ton, right? There's a ton. You can go the degen route. You can go
Mm,
content creation in many different forms. It could be video. It could be writing threads. It could be doing pictures. There could be people that are just into community and brand. Like there's so many different ways that you can go. And that's just from the things that you're interested in, right? Then you start layering geographies around the world. It's not just
mm,
your country, age ranges, income brackets. Like there's a lot of people in this. And if you really put thought into where do you want your content to be consumed, and then how do I attract those other audiences, that strategy, and those are things that we can talk about in the future. But the point I'm making is Web3 is just not a niche in one persona. There's so much going on
mm.
there, and a lot with most other groups, like we were saying. Already a fascinating conversation, man. I don't wanna miss out on I love skateboarding. That absolutely makes sense to me because there was a lot of, creativity, art when I think of design,
Yeah.
skateboard, just art in general. Artistic people that I knew, growing up with were into skateboarding, a lot of them. As far as family, other people that you look back, anyone make an impact, and if it's just vanilla, like you said in the beginning, that's totally fine. But, anything that comes to mind there?
No, nothing. It's just all kind of, yeah, vanilla, as you say.
I love that. And why I love that is, and we had this conversation with, Janner on Friday. What are your thoughts here? Because this is the conversation we had. This this day and age, especially with social media as it is, I when I consume content on the kinda entrepreneurship creativity side, everything that I consume almost pushes my mind to think that these people just came out the womb as these, like, savants, right? And they just had it from day one. And Jan and I had a really interesting conversation to just say it's okay to be vanilla. It's okay to be mediocre because life is so long. There are so many opportunities for you to have an aha moment and pivot.
Mm,
And the fact that you can do some really amazing things and you don't have to be Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or Bezos or whoever it may be. And I feel like there's such pressure on people that if you want to be in entrepreneurship, you better quit your job and put all your chips in. If you want to be top, you have to never sleep. And you should have been working since the age of 5. There's so much pressure on the
yeah.
success. What are your thoughts there?
Um, like I've always liked to do additional things. So for me, when the topic of entrepreneurship and doing stuff comes up, where I think I can't, I've got an opinion, but I don't think my opinion can be as valid as other people kind of should take it. I don't know if that's the right wording, but like to give you an example, is like
Oh, I
I
want to hear
can
it.
work an 8 hour day editing for broadcast TV or like
Yeah,
do something like that. Like legitimately check out of that, come home, and someone goes, what does someone usually do after work? They want to do something they haven't done. I can't wait to leave a job editing to come home and shoot and edit a video. I just cannot wait. I love that. So it's one of those things where it's like, for me, I can't give advice to something because it's like if someone really likes just going for a walk, they've finished walking 8 hours a day, they've just been paid to walk 8 hours a day. They get home, they go, cool, I'm going to get on the treadmill and walk another 4 hours watching TV. I just love walking. Like I
right,
love doing that so much that I can't, I can't really. I've always had an opinion on it, but then when I started to speak to friends once we got into
right,
adulthood and people had jobs and careers, I couldn't comprehend why people are like why they wouldn't want to put in extra effort when they got home because they're always burnt out from work to then
right.
try to have a side hustle and then the quitting the job makes sense because they hate it. But I'm like, but do you really hate? I can't hate doing what I like to do anyway. Like, you
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
Like that's why it's hard, and I don't have a defined opinion on it because it doesn't fit into the realm of what I actually know or do or experience.
So you kind of went in a different path, and I like where you took it. What I was really saying in the beginning, and you don't have to answer this, but what I was trying to say is the world that we live in today, especially online, it makes you think you have to be extraordinary to be able to be a good entrepreneur, to start something, to make an impact. What I'm saying is you can make a very big impact with living an average life. Yes, you can do some stuff outside of work. No one has to work as hard as you. I'm just saying you don't have to do all of these things that you are told online to quote unquote be successful. Because there's a lot of really successful entrepreneurs that might make a couple $100,000 a year, which is plenty enough money for somebody. And they exactly, which is links onto you said, love what they do. Maybe they, for instance, what I do, right? Like, I'm not making a ton of money right now, but I've had hundreds of people reach out to me and say, hey, this conversation, and hopefully it happens with ours, the conversation you had with Nate literally changed the way I think about creative. And I've always wanted to put one foot in front of the other when it came to creative. And not till I heard you two guys talk about it did it give me the confidence to just start that.
Mm.
That's why I do what I do. So that's what I'm getting at is like, you don't have to be Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk to make a difference and do something meaningful. But
No,
where
I
you,
agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, but where you took it was really interesting because I've had this conversation at nauseum too, which is I think to able to have the side hustle and ultimately turn a side hustle to replace your day job, and most people do it because they hate their day job, right? You found something you love to do. You know you love to do something when you do it all day and then you come home and you're ready to do it and you can't be more excited about it, right? my way of knowing that I love to do this and what I do, I actually hate video editing because I've done it forever,
Yeah.
and I hate it. But I love people, and I love the
Mm.
stories, and I'm fascinated about what we're doing right now. And how I know that it's exciting for me is because I have the same feeling as you, and I think that's what people are really searching for, which is there are many times, yeah, a half hour before the podcast, I'm like, man, I just really don't feel like getting in front of the camera and having a conversation. But inevitably, as it gets closer and closer to the podcast, I can't help but get excited. And I can't help but think, I know this conversation is going to make me better and I'm going to learn something new. And those are the things that we're talking about that are similar. And I think people need to figure out what that is. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. So, video, for instance, and creative, for instance, one of the guys that we had on, he was a developer and he used the analogies like, listen, a lot of people like video games. When you think, how do you get into the video game industry? You immediately go to like, I want to be a 3D artist.
Mm.
I need to be a designer. But his point was, there's tons of thing in video game industry. There's HR jobs.
Yeah.
You can be a video game tester, which everybody wants to do, but there's business strategy, there's finance, like, and his point was everyone has a skill set. You're going to be hit pretty hard pressed in any industry to not find your skill set and figure it out. Because when you do match up your skill set and your passion, that's where magical things happen. Thoughts there?
Oh no, 100%. One of the things that I found weird is like when I first got into television, I expected to be young and hip and all that. I get there, and there was like not my parents, but like my parents there, people, my parents, and they're just like just regular everyday people. I'm like, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm like the director, I'm the camera person, I do this. I'm like, you don't look what I imagine. Then you going, the cool hip person, what do you do? Oh, I'm into like sales and finance and I do this. And you're like, it didn't like what your perceptions are. It doesn't make
Right,
sense. And then you realize that underneath, you just don't have like IT people, but you've got like broadcast IT, which is not just like running standard IT, but you've got people that really get into the nitty gritty about like all of the codecs and stuff like that. And you've got
right,
this whole ecosystem of people. So you can have someone that really wants to be in movies, video games, TV, that wants to be in anything that they want to be, and they could do the thing that they enjoy the most. Because like you said, that you worked in like sort of with like a big insurance company, you could work in something as boring as sort of like sort of insurance or like sort of finance or banking, but you could
yeah,
be in the brand strategy behind that, which is the fun part of something that's boring. And it's like
yeah,
people
yeah,
wouldn't imagine that. Because when I was a kid, it's like the idea about going to banking on what? Be a bank teller? That makes no sense. Not realizing that if you went into banking, you could become an investment banker. You could do this. There's so
yeah,
many different avenues, and you
mhm,
just think about what you see at the front and not think about all the support crew behind it. So
yep,
100%, like if there's
yeah,
something that you like doing, you can always be in that regional area that you like, and then you'll
right.
most likely realize that it's not as glamorous as you think, because everyone wants to be a movie star, everyone wants to do a particular thing until they realize the effort that goes into it, and then they realize, oh, you know what, because sometimes there's like times where I'm going, there'd be nothing better than being an accountant sitting at a desk and getting the public holidays, getting the weekends off doing that. Because when does like everyone wants to be a rock star, but when do
Right.
rock stars want to have to play? They're going to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. They're going to be doing weekends. Then what are
When
you
you're
doing
not
like Monday?
yeah,
Exactly.
when
Like
you're trying to
you're
have
doing the
fun.
stuff when people want to be having fun. That's when you're working.
Yeah. And I actually never even thought about this, right? But, like, the analogy of my life, Geico is known for some of the most creative and entertaining commercials to ever be made in the States, right? And when I graduated, my buddy had a job there, and I was like, it was the economy wasn't great. And I was like, "Man, I need a job." And he's like, "Well, the designers here are old. You're young. You've literally the designers that were working at Geico at the time had laid their designs out on like artboard, and then
Yeah.
you would have to take like camera shots of your design work, get negatives, and then send them to a
Yeah.
camera shop to get prints, right? That's how they learn design.
Yeah.
And when I shit you not, man, this is the wildest thing. It was like 2 weeks in, I made like my first, yeah, I don't know, on page ad in like the Time magazine or something. And when I was done, I shot my boss a PDF and I was like, "Hey, it's ready to go." And she came by my desk and she goes, "How did you do that so quick?" I was like, "I don't know. I'll show you. Like, I'll just like click the button on the computer." Well, these ladies were so terrified of technology, they had convinced the entire department that it took 4 days to make a PDF.
Wow.
So they
Wow. I love that.
intentionally lied about the process
Yeah.
to delay their, like, incompetence and, like, not wanting to learn, right? I'm like,
That's
"How
funny.
wild is that?" So
No,
I
it yeah.
actually lucked out in a pretty good situation, but the point being, insurance is insanely mundane, but my CMO, who was a genius, did exactly what you should have done as an insurance company. How do you grab attention? You be funny. It was the
Mm,
first company that brought humor to literally one of the driest categories out there, and it worked like wildfire, man.
that's
Insanely
it.
successful company, all because of their creative and branding in an insurance category. So yeah, that's great. I mean, shit, man, I met celebrities. We did the craziest things in the world. We made a James Bond film basically on the top of a skyrise in LA, and we're working for an insurance company, right? Like, this
Yeah,
is
exactly.
crazy.
That's it.
So let's go back to I think this is gonna be a good segue because I can't pull anything out of you're one of the few that I can't pull anything out of the childhood. We got a lot of vanilla, but that's
Mm.
totally fine. We did get to skateboarding though, and I think that's a good segue to just start let it go into the creative conversation. And I think since we're vibing so much, we can just kind of explore the middle part of your life. Let's explore the skateboarding and kind of your spawning into video editing and creativity, and then let's roll into Web3 and our thoughts on how people should be thinking about being creative in the Web3 space. So take us from skateboarding on.
So from there, I think it was when I got towards the end of high school, it was thinking about, hey, what do I want to do now? And I thought, what is the I don't want to have to work in a factory, sit in an office, or do something like that. I want to do something fun and creative. So I was looking at like this is back when you had like a textbook full of like what careers you can go into with what marks you get in school, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, so I applied for like some graphic design stuff, some just like anything creative because I'm like, I like doing it, like editing videos for fun. I just like doing it. What else can I kind of go in and do? And then I applied for sort of, I don't know what you call it there, kind of like community college, but we out here we call it TAFE. It's like technical college. So when ended up going there, and when I got into that, I like the entry sort of test exam wasn't too hard. It's quite easy. Got a spot in it, and I'm like, okay, cool. Then I just I tried to backwards work out what the end goal was. And the end goal at the end of the course was because the teachers there also had broadcast experience and they were working in the industry and they were usually the feeders to the big networks. So you got to
Right.
imagine someone that fed all the like sort of recent graduates into like an NBC or a CBS or something. Those people were the people that were training you. And I was like, how do you make sure that when they get a phone call going, hey, we didn't need a new influx of sort of graduates, what do you do? And I went, if I get to class just early than everyone else, don't even be there half hour early, but just get there 2 or 3 minutes early. So you're first there, be the last one to leave. But then even things like if you're handing in an assignment or an assessment, don't just hand it in. Why don't you just go check in with the teacher and be like, hey, here's what I want to submit. If there's anything you think I should change or do because I want to make sure I get good marks, instantly all the other people that are just trying to like get in late, leave early, not do anything, you seem like you apply yourself. Even if you're not the smartest or the best,
Yeah.
you're the person that is always in front of them, that's always applying themselves. And that thing played out. Got a teachers like, hey, can you stay after class? Hey, there's an opening doing Sundays, just Sunday mornings on one of the breakfast TV shows. And I'm like,
Awesome.
okay, I'll take that. And then it went to a Saturday and a Sunday. Then when I got to the end of the class, like the course of that year, it was
Yeah.
like, I went to her and I'm like, should I keep going? What should I do? And she's like, where do you learn the most? I'm like, one shift is like a month here. And she goes, well, you know where you should be then. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to continue here because I've already got my in, because people usually spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years at university, college, whatever you want to call it, to then get their foot in the door. But once you get your foot in the door, that degree is irrelevant because the degree is just the way to get into that realm. So then from there, it was like Saturdays and Sundays, and everyone will call me lucky, but I worked Saturdays and Sundays, like mornings. So I was up at Friday at 11 p.m. to get there at Saturday 1 a.m. and same thing for Sunday. Do that and just grinded through it. But then eventually that meant that when the Monday to Friday opened up and all the actual good jobs opened up, you were there because everyone wants to come in and earn the big money, getting the really good stuff without putting in the groundwork. And the groundwork's the relationships. And this ties back into Web3. All the very best opportunities that you get aren't usually a cold DM. It's someone going, hey, I know this person, sort of warm intro, they're your friend, they're your network, all that kind of stuff. So the creative aspect was me just like from skateboarding, it was, I don't want to do something boring. I want to do something that's fun and that I find exciting. So I found something that I thought would be fun and exciting, did that, and then just sort of thought about how I could then make it to the next step. And what's the next step? Backwards, like engineer that, then execute on that, get to that next step. Then it's like, hey, I'm working Saturdays and Sundays. What's the next step to getting the Monday to Friday, the full-time thing? Oh, maybe I should be friends with this person. Maybe I should do this. And eventually in the freelance world, it's just any phone call that you say, you get yes. You reach out to everyone and going, hey, I'm free Monday to Friday. You can call me up 2 hours before you need a shift. I'll say yes. So then you get put to the top of the list. Then you become the regular that people see around. Then when that opening comes up, you then end up getting the job because you're there all the time. And this will come into like the Web3 sort of speak later. It's those similar opportunities. It's going, what do you want out of the particular thing? Be it that whitelist, be it that flip, be it whatever it is. How do you backwards engineer it? And then if you backwards engineer the result that you want, then you can just work towards that, and you're usually going to succeed in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. No, that was a beautiful, beautiful insight. And you know what's interesting? You actually related to what I was saying before, that you don't have to be Elon or Mark Zuckerberg. And what you said, I think, was a really interesting way to say it, because I haven't really heard it said that way, which was, you just said, "Hey, I wasn't showing up to class 3 hours before and staying an hour after. I'm talking just a couple minutes." But the thought behind what you were doing is the same mentality as show up early, stay late. But you
Yes.
again, right? It doesn't have to be these extremes. You're talking 5, 10 minutes here, and look what that did. That launched you into
Yeah.
something that eventually became your love, your passion, and your career. And that message, again, what another great insight from this conversation already is, just put a little, it's the 1% better mentality, right?
Yes. Yes.
But again, you hear 1% all the time, but like, what is that 1%? And in your version, it was like 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after a class. That is amazing to hear. And I love that. What I'm interested in, though, is you do have this, um, I can tell you have this grinding, go get it mentality. Where do you think that came from?
I think it came from where I grew up. So like if you're in like middle class, lower middle class, usually the parents are going to have to be working some overtime in some way, shape or form to just provide for the family. That's just what they're going to have to do. And what that
Right.
instills you is, if you want that thing, you're going to have to work hard for it. It's
Yeah.
not like hey, I can give you a connection, I can fast track you. There was no way about being fast tracked. Like the friends that I
Right.
skateboarded with that are in the trades now, that are like sort of contractors and doing that, it wasn't, hey, do this and you'll get all this money. It was like, you're going to have to be working hard days. You're going to have to be working in the sun, in the rain, whatever it is. But if you work hard, you will be like rewarded in like somehow. So I think from that upbringing, it's, if you actually work hard, and I know it's hard because people go like, oh, if you work hard, then you'll make it. But like, that's just a mantra that kind of goes like, that's a mantra that people say. And then some people go, yeah, but I got lucky. Like there's luck involved. There's all that kind of stuff. But I think it's that upbringing of, if you want something, just put in more effort and keep going until you actually sort of see those results. But then you also got to be smart enough to then realize that sometimes if it's not working, you're not hitting those metrics that you want, then cut it off. But I think that mentality of like, you're just going to have to work hard for that thing because no one's going to give it to you. And it's like that mentality and that kind of thought. It's that thing that was kind of instilled in me and also my group of friends when we were kind of younger, just because
Yeah.
of where we grew up.
Yeah, no, and that totally makes sense, and see what I did there? I actually got another insight from your childhood. But yeah, that totally makes sense, and I've heard that a lot. I actually am terrified, about being a father because I want to give my son everything, but I also want him to learn the hard work stuff,
Mm,
and
yeah,
I think you know, that happens a lot, and how do you navigate that? I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I know I'm gonna make sure he figures out how to work hard or what that even means, because life is not just a Disneyland movie, right? We need to
exactly.
we need to figure that out and tell him
Yeah.
that somehow that doesn't completely destroy him, but I'll figure it out. I'm not sure what that strategy is. So, I love the insight of the hard work. Talk to me about this is kind of the beginning of the journey. You're picking up shifts. You're starting to understand the video industry stuff. Is it clicking already there that you're like, this is it for me? I love it. Like, when did you have that kind of light bulb moment of like, I absolutely love this?
It was the first time was it was actually in class, and that's when it kind of made sense because the first class was audio class. Sat down with the teacher who was like the audio engineer that like
Mhm.
for movies, stuff like that. And he's like, hey, here are some here, like he just dumped a bunch of stuff and he goes, play around with it. Don't press this button, it'll break it. But here's how it is. And you just like, we spent a day just clicking stuff together, like playing tone, just testing things out, doing that. And then he's like, I can't remember what the homework was, but whatever the homework was, as soon as I got home, I couldn't wait to do the homework. And I'm like, oh, I've never had that feeling before where you got home and you're excited to continue doing what you were doing. You're like, okay, that's different. And with like working like at a TV network and doing that kind of thing, you'd finish that and sure you'd be kind of like, oh, that was a hard shift or stressful or whatever. But you get
Right.
back and you would have consumed some content, you would have done something there that would have inspired you to then create something later on. Be it, oh, you know what, I actually really like this style, or I saw this trailer of this movie, I've done that thing. Then you'll kind of want to research it. It's not like you want to block it out. And that's when I don't think it was a light bulb moment going like, hey, I'm going to do this forever. This is the best. But it was the fact that you didn't hate waking up the next morning. You were like,
Right.
you're excited to wake up and get there because it was going to be a new adventure. It was going to be exciting.
Right.
Because then once you finished it, you did something else. And then you go back and then it kind of just snowballs and compounds all your
Yeah.
skills, the people that you're talking to, all of that kind of stuff. And it just goes on. So for me, it wasn't a light bulb. Like the only light bulb moment was when I was in class that first day when I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm actually having fun here. I'm excited to do the homework. But there was no light bulb moment. It was like, I can't, like, when you do a shift on TV, you're like, that was fun. I just watched a story on this. I can't wait to get a story about that thing, or I can't wait to do something for this different TV show. I can't wait to do that, which then means that you're then building up your skill set. You then speak to someone and going, hey, how are you working on something like 60 minutes? And then they go, because I've got friends that work on like 60 minutes, like they're proper, like, because 60
Right.
minutes, like now it's not as prestigious as it used to be, but
It
60 minutes
was
is
the
like,
thing when we grew up, man.
exactly. Like they work on that and you're going, how did you get that? And they go, I did this, this, this. You then go, do I want to get there? What if I trialed this a little bit? Okay, I'm not sure. Like there are shows and things and people that there are people that you speak to that are in those positions and you ask them, how did you get that? How did you get to this spot? And then that explores and opens up a little bit more. So even though you're
Right.
there working, you're still networking just by finding out stuff that you're interested in. And when I speak to people that aren't in sort of like the content industry, they want to ask stories about like the parties, they want to ask stories about how something gets worked, how something gets put together, and you explain it to them. And it's like that when you're discovering something for the first time, you just
Right.
want to know as much as you can, which is then a springboard into another conversation with another person, springboard another person, another conversation, and then it unravels a whole new world. So even though you're there like working, you're
Yeah.
still learning and working at the same time, which then
Right.
gets you more excited to then try something different, pivot, and then you just keep coming back more excited, wanting to speak to that person again, and then go from there.
Yeah, and it's awesome to hear you talk because I can literally feel, like, the excitement when you're talking
Yeah.
about the things that you love to do, and I have a similar well, a couple things. You said it might not be a light bulb moment. I actually absolutely interpret that as a light bulb moment. Again, another version or example of, like, people hear light bulb moment, and it has to be, like, this massive realization. I think the realization that you were in class and you're like, "Hey, I like this. I'm actually excited to do the next thing." That's a huge light bulb moment.
Mm.
Some people search for that their whole lives and never have it, right? And I feel very fortunate, and I'm sure you feel very fortunate that you have found that. The next thing that I was gonna say is I totally and I like how you described it, and I didn't even realize the same thing was happening to me in my life until my wife said something to me, which was when I did the brand management stuff, creative, I love creativity.
Mm.
I don't even necessarily have to be doing a specific skill. Like, I just love being around creative minds. I love ideating. I love strategizing. I love all of that. So when I was running the brand team, I had a creative agency that I worked with closely. So much of the fact we called each other family. And I'd work a long day in the office, and then I would just talk to them because I enjoyed it. And we would talk about new commercial ideas or new strategies or new things that we could use our budget to do, like interactive websites or create new games. Like literally Flash was still a thing back there, right? So, like,
Yeah.
how do we start going more interactive and not just live 30 seconds of commercials at a time? And I get off the phone sometime, be 11 o'clock at night, but it didn't feel like work to me because I was so excited and passionate about it, and those conversations, like you said, those extra conversations turned into so many more opportunities in the future. So I really thought that was beautiful how you said that, and just yet another thing that I think people should be listening to. Listen, if you're sitting around wanting to have conversations about whatever you're talking to while you're working, you're probably in a good place and you probably should do more
Mhm.
of that. If you're not doing that and you're hating your life and everything that you're doing, you probably should make a smart move, not just quit your job and go listen to us and be a content creator. You probably should just keep on grinding your day job out, but continue to try things until you can feel these feelings that Nate and I are talking about right now. So thank you so much for sharing that, man, because that was a beautiful way that you said it. So take me through, did you end up getting a we call it college, most people call it uni. Did you end up getting a uni degree, or did you just
No.
start go
So
work?
the way it was structured is after the first year, you get a certificate two. Then after the second year, you get a certificate four. Then you can get a diploma, and then that would go towards a university degree. Because like I've got a friend who finished university, and he did like in a very similar thing that like I did,
Yeah,
but the first time I ever edited or did a shoot with him, he was there for 4 years and it was very theory based. Whereas, like, because it was a technical college, you literally got to hold stuff and play with stuff and you learnt from industry professionals. Whereas the college was people that knew the theory and the story behind it and the history behind it. Whereas, like, I would get there and the teacher would be like, you don't need to learn this side of the sound mixer because that doesn't apply to you. That's only live, like, audio type thing. Like, it was very that thing. And he was just shocked that when we first started to do something together, like shooting music videos, I had all this knowledge and he didn't know, like, he was just like, why haven't I learned this? I've spent 4 years and I
yeah,
don't know the basis behind it.
yeah,
So I have like a portion of the degree, but I also don't need to have it because when I look at the people that do have it, they didn't learn what I learned, and I went that path because I went to the technical college that had like we had a TV studio there, proper TV
right,
studio set up
right,
that was better than the one of the studios down the road. Like they literally spent millions of dollars doing it, all the cameras, all of the equipment, all the lighting. So you learned in a real life studio. And what was crazy is that you got taught these habits that you thought were dumb. And then
right,
as soon as I got in there the first day, it was like, oh, everything that those teachers taught us was the exact thing. Like when you're speaking on the intercom, like the mic talk back, same mic talkback, same switches, everything. So you kind of realized, oh, what we were taught wasn't someone just teaching us a syllabus. They were teaching us what you needed to know. And
Right.
that's why it was that one day there was like a month of like schooling, because in the schooling, you have kids just messing around, not really doing much. But when you're in there, if you make a mistake, like the first sinking feeling that I ever had, and this is why this comes back to Web3 about why I broadcast and create all the content and put it online, is when you make a mistake and you get called out for that mistake, you don't make that mistake again. If you hide
Yeah.
in the shadows and make the mistake, you can
Yeah.
sweep it under the rug and you forget about it.
I
I
love
put a piece of content to air, and over the talkback, the director goes, aspect ratio, and that's it. And then the sort of like lead news editor turns around and goes, who cut that piece? And I was like, me. And they go, yeah, the aspect ratio was off. And then there was that sinking feeling watching it on, because you're in the station watching it on the screen, realizing that hundreds of thousands of people have seen something up there and you've done it and it's wrong. And you're going, you
right.
can't control Z that, you can't take that back. And you're going, I'm going to double check from now on the aspect ratio. And it's
Right.
like, it's that kind of thing. So where that circles into Web3 is, it's like, if you make a piece of content about something and someone goes, hey, it's a rug because of these reasons, you don't delete that video. You're going, I'm going to really make sure that I learn that, like, that's another thing in your checklist to make sure that you don't look at
Right.
that thing, or you cover that thing, or you do that thing next time, because you need to have those losses to get those wins. And you only get those losses if you are public with those losses, because then
Yeah.
people want to berate you and think that you're terrible at what you do, but that's part of your learning experience. And that's why you end up getting insanely better than everyone else, because you internalize those losses and they never happen again. So
Yep.
that's where it kind of, that's where learning that early on also made it into how I produce content for Web3.
Right. I mean, you said so many amazing things there. One of the just I want to comment on, I really like that philosophy of making mistakes, but making mistakes in public, really to hold yourself accountable, right? Think about how many
Exactly.
people try to sweep that underneath the rug, and again, the mentality of, like, making mistakes is a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing, actually, but then leveling it up and saying, "Well, I'm gonna do this in the public space too." Now, it's unfortunate for us as content creators because it can be pretty brutal, so you have to have some thick skin, and maybe it's not for everybody, but the real thing that you're saying there is accountability. And
Yes.
accountability is becoming far and few between, unfortunately, in this day and age, and it's a massive, massive thing, especially if you are gonna be content creator, 'cause you're gonna put your stuff in public. You better darn straight, and hey, I do all of this stuff live, so I've screwed up many and
Yeah.
many times. I've said some things I probably shouldn't have said, but hey, you learn from it and you move on. So, 1, I loved that insight. I think that's a great insight. One of the questions that I have.
Can we actually pause here just for a second? Because
Yeah.
I forgot to plug this in. So I need to go grab the charger, plug this in. Otherwise, at some point, we're just going to go completely black. So
No,
give me
no,
like
go for it, man.
30
No, no,
seconds.
no, no problem at all. Thanks everybody for joining in, man. We got a lot of people here. I'm excited. Does anybody use chat on Twitter? I really do hope Twitter becomes the video platform. By the way, I don't call it X. It's called Twitter. It will always be called Twitter in my mind. I don't understand why nobody uses chat and live. There's a live video chat in Twitter, but no one seems to use it. Everyone uses it in Twitch and YouTube. Apparently, Elon is gonna move this platform to a video-centric platform. Not sure when that's gonna happen, but I hope it happens sooner and later because that's what my brand's all about. Fascinating conversation already, by the way.
We're good.
All right, so what did you just had to plug a power cord in?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
So, back to the question, you kinda hinted at it already with the fact that you were learning skill sets and you didn't actually get that 4-year degree, but there's twofold things here. You're going through this, like, pretty really cool real-time education that's intense. You're working on broadcasts, it's going to hundreds of thousands of people. Being young, that can be probably overwhelming. twofold question in the sense of what do you think are the best skills that you learned during that time period as kind of a videographer or video creative person, and then skills in the sense of entrepreneurship, growth, kind of more of the broader business skill sets. I'm interested what those this type of live productions studio experience. Uh,
So I think the first skill is not, I don't know what the right wording would be, but it's like not taking what you're creating seriously,
mm,
and whatever you've created, it's not yours, and you can't be offended if people don't like it, whatever it is. Like, you create this thing, you try to hit what the script says, you try to create it, but ultimately you shouldn't care about the feedback that you get from that. Now, the reason that I say that is, you edit a piece, the journalist goes, I don't like it, that's terrible. Executive producer goes, we don't like it, we're not going to run it, it's just bad. That isn't you that's bad, it's the story that's bad.
yeah,
Next piece of content that you make is going to be great. There's always another piece. It's
yeah,
not like your whole career isn't based off that one thing. There's
right,
always another piece, because you're going, like when I was doing the mornings, I was cutting about 50 to 60 pieces for like on air in a like a 8 hour shift, but like a 3 hour broadcast, like constantly pumping something out. So
right,
you could have someone not like your one thing,
yeah,
and eventually you get to that point where you say to the producer, I'm like, cool, you don't like it, too bad, I've got
yeah,
another 20 things to do. So you either just be happy with all right, and then we get the rest of it done, or I can perfect this one thing, perfect that 1 30 seconds, and you get nothing else done, which then comes to the fact that good enough is good enough,
yeah,
and there's always going to be more, but no one really remembers what has happened. And like,
yeah,
it's that kind of that fast throughput of it. um,
mm-hmm,
so there's that kind of skill. And the entrepreneur side, like, from that is that in a similar sense, which is, you try your best, you make that piece of content, you try to make that business connection, whatever it is. But one deal, one conversation, one thing usually won't make or break your career. You could, if you had Elon Musk on to have that, like to have a conversation, it gets 1 billion views, it's all good. There's going to be another piece of content that you make, and then in a year's time, it's going to be irrelevant. So if you are creating something and you've got like sort of business and clients, if that's how you're operating, there's always going to be another client, and that client that's terrible, that you don't like, or that thinks you're bad, is going to move on. There's always just more, and just getting like, just keep pushing forward,
yeah,
because is it, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
everyone
No,
loved, yeah,
and
that kind
I've
of thing.
heard, you know, how I interpret what you say, and it's funny. I hear this. I'm starting to hear this more and more in the creative world, which is, I think one of the things that a lot of creatives struggle from is, I think you're taught early on, or you hear like you have to have your brand, right? And then you get so caught up in what your brand is, you end up not being as creative as you should be.
Mm.
And so, what you were getting at in my mind was, you just got to keep on trying things, right? Because there's going to be successful things, there's going to be
Yeah.
bad things, but you have to keep on trying. You have to keep on putting out there. And I think people can get so caught up and paralyzed by trying to make everything perfect when that's never going to happen. You always have another topic opportunity to create creative. And I also love what you said, that it's going to be very rare that you make something so horrific that it ends your career. I mean, we all know the things that you can do to end your creative
Mm.
career, like, they're pretty clear,
Yeah.
you know, don't
Yeah,
all of the
it's
things
so
that go in
funny.
your
It's like,
head, it's
because you
pretty black
didn't,
and white. Go
yeah,
ahead.
people think that, oh, because I set my like audio levels to -6 instead of
Right.
-4, that like my content career is going to be over. And it's just like, dude, like, oh, you just left it in log and you didn't put a LUT over it. Oh no, your career is going to be over. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, that honestly does not matter, as opposed to some others, like there's other things. Like, it's just people want that perfection, and they think that what matters to them actually matters when it really doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. You remember the they don't exist anymore, but I loved the founder, and I forget her awesome name. There was a project called Cryptoria. Do you remember them at all?
It sounds very familiar. If I
So they
saw it,
were one of the, like, on the early end, like, Degenheim. That guy, by the way, is amazing, Milan. He's been on my show. He's fantastic. They were, like, in the beginning of the early, gaming meta. I mean, we talked for, like, 2.5 hours. My voice was echoed the entire time.
that's
Had
funny.
no clue.
Yeah.
Like, went back to listen to it. How somebody in the chat did not be like, "Bro, something's not right." I guess people just
Yeah.
were too scared to say something. It's like, "Please, if something's that bad, just say it to me." It was unusable. And,
Yeah.
it's just a prime example, but what happened after that? Cryptoria was like a bigger project, and I got more followers even though it was
Yes.
horrible, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's a great point. I love that. I think, let's move on, past that. Those are 2, really great insights, and I think they're similar, but people really need, and I think on the creative side too, why I'm bringing my video game stream back, right? That's just another outlet. That's another chance for me to get on front of camera, have conversation, and interact with people. Why would
Mm.
I not do that? Someone asked to be, my corporate job. I do business strategy. It's the most mind-numbing, horrible stuff in the world, but I'm an excellent presenter. And they're like, what have you done to get so good in talking in front of a room?" And I'm like, "Well, I started a podcast 4 years ago, and all I do is talk, and I'm insanely comfortable with it now." And the skill set that I think has been most beneficial to me is the how quickly I can think in real time, kind of, distill what you're saying, and then be
Yep.
able to pull insights from that. That is hard, man.
Yes.
And
That yeah.
and the only way to do that is you just have to keep on doing it. Again, none of this stuff is rocket science, people. To get good at something, you just have to keep on doing it. And this space is the hardest, though. And I've said this at nauseum. We talk about this all the time. What's so hard about Web3 is all of the narratives and all of the marketing that you see is this stuff is happening overnight, and everyone's becoming a millionaire over the night. 99% of it is fake,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. Listen, there is no, we talk about this a lot, too. There's a reason why there's a billion-dollar weight loss industry, because people want to believe that they can lose 100 pounds in a month, but the reality is that's not possible. But people yet continue to spend money on this shit.
Mm.
And there's no difference in Web3. Everyone wants to be a millionaire overnight, but it is the same thing as hitting a lottery ticket
Yeah.
and making $1 million off a meme coin than it is anything else. The rest of it comes with hard work over time. What do you think?
Oh, exactly it. And this also comes circles back to you don't need to be Elon Musk to be successful. It's like
Mhm.
you, even if you're not making $1 million off a meme coin, if you can consistently be making $100 a day, that's amazing. But people but I'm not making sort of 100 Solana a day. I'm not making an ETH a day. I'm a failure. It's like you're going to the casino and winning every day, or like you're
Yeah,
winning overall. Like if you're beating the house, you're different. You're special. Like beating the house is good. Like you're not doesn't matter about that $1 million win. If you can stack that 100 a day, you're good. But everyone just tries to run it, and I'm guilty of it myself. Like I've made some content about BullX, which is a meme coin trading platform, and I'm
yeah,
sitting there. I'm live trading to try to put into a tutorial, and I'm like, yeah, cool, bought this buy-in. Now we'll set it this, like, take profit at this level, this level, this level. And then when I was cutting it back, I'm like, I'm a freaking idiot. Like I bought this meme coin at 14K, and I've set like my sell order at 32, 60, and then 120. And I'm like getting close to them. I'm like, if I just took these profits consistently at 20 or 30%, clip, 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 but I'm trying to hit like 2, 3, 5, 10x's
What
all the
everybody
time.
does.
And it's just like, oh man, like, and that it's nuts because traditional world, if you could hit 20% return on something, someone's like, that's a good return, take it. But
Or
in
to
meme
freak
coins, it's
out,
like
freak
20%
out.
slippage. It's
Well, we even
nuts.
think about this, and this is the other thing too, is just like break things down into snackable, actually
Mm,
achievable things, right? Not even, dude, $100 a day for a month. That's close to 3,000.
yeah.
I wouldn't even
Yeah.
take that. $3,000 a month, there's a lot of people in this world that would kill for that. Have
Exactly.
that, right? $50 a day. You're still talking about $1,500 a month that you could be making. And then if you made that and then put it into Bitcoin or Ethereum or all of
Yeah.
these other things that are more stable, I mean, that is such a fascinating mentality. And it's the biggest problem I see with Web3 because the people that are actually making the big dollars are trying to convince you that you will, and
Yeah.
all you're doing is putting money in their pocket. It's
That
unfortunate.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
really unfortunate. So take us through we're getting through kind of more practical applications. Anything you want to touch on in your video editing career until we really pivot to Web3 and creative?
I don't think so. It's just from that, even professionally working in it, but then trying stuff. So shooting music videos, shooting corporate videos. At one point, I did had an agency doing construction content
Mhm.
specifically here, like just in the city. And you're going
Right.
like, we basically not saying we pioneered a genre like concrete pour videos, but basically that became very hot for all of the concrete people in Sydney. So if they were pouring like a high rise or doing that, that's just what they would do. And
Right.
then they kind of saw it and they wanted to kind of do that. So it's just trying different things. And this is where the repetitions come back in because then that kind of bled into because construction also is real estate. When you go, someone build like a builder builds a home, they want to show off the home that they've built and
Right.
doing all that and that skill set. But yeah, it's just trying all of these different things. And where it makes sense for the springboard into Web3 is a lot of this stuff, because like you said, if you're shooting a commercial, you're on site, you're working long hours, you're away from everyone. What is the best thing that you could kind of do or create? If you could create content for someone, um, remove the client aspect of it, so someone actually paying your bills and you're the end client, but also
Yeah.
not having to leave your home, then that's when you get to like Web3 content creation because you're going, I'm at home. If I need to, I can go sort of hang out the washing, cook dinner, do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
I'm the end client. Doesn't matter who says like if it's good or bad. If I think it's good enough, it goes out. And in terms
Mhm.
of being paid, you don't have to then like it's based on your skill set to get paid. You're not
Yeah.
waiting on someone to then go, oh, cool, finance has it. They're going to 60 days and then they'll pay it and do that. So
Yeah.
that's why like doing all that kind of just crafted this perfect storm. Because if someone was like, hey, would you like to run an agency with $1 million profit a year? I'm like, my first question would be like, when am I leaving the home? When am I getting back? What are the phone calls like? What does that do? Because I
Yeah.
would rather not do all that and just earn a mediocre amount, but then not like maintain the lifestyle. And that's why I think a lot of people like Web3 because sure, they might be working longer hours, but it fits in with the lifestyle that they
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
because they're able to work the hours, create the connections, do what they want to do. And it's really, even though yes, it's very PvP, but it's based on your skills. If you're not good at sort of trading meme coins, you can get better. And it's all based on you. It's not like you've made very, like, it's not like you've done very good and that profit has then gone up to a boss or a middle manager somewhere, or it's gone to someone that's owning the business. It's like it's you. If you make a good flip, if you make a good trade, if you have conviction, and it's hard because it's a casino, but it's like you're rewarded for that. So that's why the all of that stuff leading up to Web3 was just what did I like about doing this? What did I hate about doing this? And just taking the things that I hated, remove those, and just taking the things that I liked and then went there. Because when you have an agency or something, the best part was I get to create a piece of content to promote what we're doing. And that was fun and more enjoyable than it was more fun and enjoyable paying employees to then make a piece of content for myself to promote than it was getting paid by someone to do something, because I was the client, I was the end goal. Like
Right.
it was on me. So even though you were paying for it, it made more sense. And that's when I'm like, okay, it does make more sense to create content for yourself where you're the end client, the you're the person that gets to decide if it goes out or not, because ultimately it's on you, it's not on someone else. Because you've worked in the creative field, it's so dumb. Someone's like, oh, I don't really like this, can you change this to green? And you're like, it's
Right.
red for a reason. You
Yeah.
change it to green, they're like, yeah, actually let's go back to red. And I'm like, I've just wasted 2 hours for no reason, just because you
Yeah.
wanted to have a say.
Oh my gosh. And so I lucked out in the sense that I saw that very early on. But even when I was in college, I my professors, a lot of them worked for huge agencies, and it just always seemed so miserable to me.
Mhm.
So when I did look for a job, I didn't had a job offer at an ad agency. I didn't do it because I knew how miserable it was, because you're dealing with these clients, right?
Yeah.
So I always said if I was gonna do design, I was gonna be client side so I could make the decisions, and I ended up getting
Yes.
that, so I never had to deal with that. What I'm hearing is you had to deal with clients, and anyone in the creative professional world will tell you that's one of the most frustrating and
Yep.
annoying things. So I actually think it's beautiful with what you said, because I haven't even really thought about that. Like, I am making creative for myself, and I just answer to myself. And that is
Exactly.
a huge, huge benefit. What did you love that has translated? Because you said there's things that you hate. I think the number one thing hating is talking to clients and having to listen to their BS
Mm.
feedback. Because I even on the client side, I would have to listen to people above me that had more say, and I would think to
Yeah.
myself, "Why are they saying this?" And it's very frustrating to me.
Yeah.
So I get that part. What are some of the things that you love that you learned over that time that has translated to Web3?
I think I liked the ability to. So when I was working with a client and you'd be like, hey, I want to try doing short form content, or hey, I want to try this thing. And they go, we trust you, let it run. And they let you have that freedom.
Mm,
Um, that let you go, okay, when because that also takes you out of the creative rut. If you're doing the same thing day in, day out, you might just go, you know what, I don't feel like doing an 8-minute long form piece and editing that up and making it look good. Maybe I just feel like doing some short form content just so I can kind of try something different. Maybe
right,
I want to go shoot outside, like just set up out the back. Maybe I want to kind of just change the way that I do something. And it wasn't that like I kind of I liked making content for clients, still doing stuff like broadcast, that kind of thing. I still like doing that, but it was the removing the things that I didn't like, which was usually the people that were having the say. It was usually removing the payments that come through the back end. Also, and the other thing as well is like it's also employees. The reason that like if I really wanted to, I could scale this out and have a sort of producer or scriptwriter, I could have an editor, I could do that. But the
right,
reason I don't is because there's nothing more than I hate than like I'm a professional editor. I know how to do it. If I was to explain to someone that's even just like half as experienced as me, and like, look, I've been doing this for about what 14, 15 years, like 14 years, about 14 years professionally. You take someone that's been doing it for 7 years, I could then go, here's what I want you to do. By the time I speak to them on the phone, I could most likely do it myself. And that's when
right,
it starts to get a little bit hard because I'm like, yes, like to delegate to people, that just frustrates me because I'm like, I would rather not I'd rather just delay that piece of content, do it myself when I'm feeling like it because I'm the end
right,
client. If it needs to go out, I'll put it out when I want to put it out. But it removes that frustration of, hey, I can't do this thing because, but this clip's wrong or this thing's done. Like, oh, but you've sent me square vision, but we're trying to fit it in 16:9. It's like either blow it up or put it on a background. Like, there's all these things that in my mind I've had to deal with when I've done it in a professional sense. So
yeah,
I've got all these problem solving skills that I'm like, sure, I could try to translate them to someone else, but then I'm also they're relying on me for an income. I then
yeah,
have to then sit down and do some payroll. I have to pay them and do that. Like, irrespective, you give me $1 million and you give me a crew, hey, we can do this. But I have to sit down there and do some payroll. I don't want to do payroll. I don't want to have to sit there.
Right.
Like, if it's a Friday night, I don't want to get a text message going, hey, the payment hasn't come through. And like, hey guys, I'm going to have to stop dinner here. I need to go send this person some money because the payment didn't go through. Like, that's just, that irritates me. So for me, I just took all the bits and pieces out that I didn't like, and just, it's my own thing. So that's why I edit all my stuff. That's why I've set it up the way that I've done it. Also, like this is literally when we bought this house, we walked down here. This is a room just for filming, nothing else. Sometimes I might come down here once a week to film. It's legitimately just a room straight for filming. And
Right.
it's set up in a way that I want it to be set up. So when we walked in here, me and the wife were just like, we're like, this is the studio. Like, this is just it. It's underneath the house. It's like, it's far away from everything. It's like, what was that hurdle with creating content? We're in the other place. We were sharing the home office. So I had to move some stuff away so she could kind of work there, move some stuff in. When I wanted to do it, I wanted to have everything set up the way that I wanted it. So for me, it was like, how can I optimize this to just make this as enjoyable as possible? Take all the bits that are friction, like that create friction out, and just create that perfect, environment for creating.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think, what you said and what I think about a lot, and you're proof of it, and I'm doing it myself. I think what's fascinating about being a content creator today is you can make a lot of money, a fun living, a flexible living, and, yeah, maybe you need 2 or 3 contractors, as at certain points if you're overwhelmed,
Mm.
but you literally can do it yourself.
Yeah.
You need a fast internet connection, you can teach yourself on YouTube, and it's really up to whatever you put in it, and that just didn't exist before. I have my director buddies that did I was I mean, shit, man, I think we spent 800,000 bucks on a 30-second spot. And you
Wow.
can do
Yeah.
that, right? Like, I'm talking massive budgets. Every time
Mm.
I went out to LA, it was for a couple weeks. We were spending millions of dollars, and we came back with like 7 or 8 TV commercials that were
Yeah.
30 seconds of video, right? We had
Yeah.
75 people on set. We had every
Mm.
person that goes into basically a major motion film, but doing high-end commercials.
Yes.
What I have constantly told my director buddies is I'm like, "Listen, man, you do not need that anymore." And I always used to joke, like, 2 guys and a GoPro, that is the
Yeah.
future of creative, and it
Yep.
absolutely has become true. So I think that's one of the things that people also need to be thinking about is figure out a skill set that you want, but don't force yourself into the trap that you need X, Y, and Z people to like get to where you want to do
Mm.
and get to where you want to be. There's so many different outsources and outlets that if you need a video editor to pick up couple even for a few hours to help get content out there, it's doable, and stay lean because you actually have a real shot at making it in a lean operation. It doesn't have to be the
Exactly.
crazy ad agency. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Let's transition to Web3, man. How did you find Web3? And I don't believe it or not, we've already been talking for an hour and a half pretty much. So I want to be cognizant of time, but I also want to hear um how you found Web3, and then how did you like really start manifesting like, oh, I can really make it as a content creator in the space.
So I first discovered NFTs when Gary was it not Gary V? No, maybe it was Gary V. This is the thing. It was so long ago. It was early 2021. It was like when VV started off. I was buying those because a friend got me into it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting, and I
Mhm.
started to kind of dabble in that. We would wake up for drops, do that, and I thought the concept was interesting. Then when I looked into other sort of like NFT, like sort of like on-chain NFTs like Ethereum and that kind of stuff, I was like, okay, cool, this is interesting. Started to dabble, and I had a friend at the time that was starting to actually build up some traction on YouTube, and he was always like, hey, you should really go hard on YouTube because there's a lot of money to be made in the advertising sponsorships, just like everything overall. And he's like, and he kind of did some research and he goes, look, why don't you do it on NFTs? Because, and then when I did some research, I had a look and you're going, the content creators that were there were in the tens of thousands of followers, yet the crypto influencers had the millions of followers. And this is when like we're starting to build up. And it was just a simple multiplication going, someone that has 10,000 followers, if they get to 1 million and I start now, and they get 100, if they get a 10x or 100x in their followers, I can then get a 10 or 100x in my followers, subscribers, and build my brand. So you can be in somewhat early. So that was the kind of process of it. Just going, okay, I'm interested in it and I'm kind of doing it a little bit, but how can I speed run it forward? And it
Right.
was like, okay, if I create content, then I know I'm going to be able to create a brand. I know that it doesn't matter what chain exists, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm able to use the platform to do something, not showing, not knowing what you can do with it, but knowing that if you've got a platform, you can do something with it. So that was that's where I kind of jumped in. But then I also set myself up in a way that I could get out daily video, at least 5 videos a week. Like I got a structure together. I'm like, okay, cool. If I do this and I set up in this particular way, I can reduce the back end of the editing. I can template the thumbnail and I can just start getting more and more content out. And that's what I did and just started going hard and then do something. And then you get some more followers, get some more views. And then by the time you've done a month worth of content, you've got a decent catalog. And then it started to get some traction. You're like, okay, now you can start to refine what your content is. Like, okay, people like this style of content. Let me lean into that. Okay, now that I've got a platform, people might actually answer a DM if I want to reach out and try to do a collab because I've actually got a bit of a brand. And you start doing that, which then circles back to as long as I don't delete anything and I hold myself accountable in every video, that then becomes the learning experience, which means that you're then actually able to make money and not just feed it back into the casino of Web3. And a lot of my YouTube friends, and a lot of them just kind of just dropped off and don't make any content anymore. But a lot of them, we didn't know how YouTube would be monetized, how you would be able to make money from content, because this is before the whitelist meta really kicked off. Then it's like, you're literally putting in effort, making content, not knowing if it's going to pay off. And I think that friction also made people not want to do it because I'm like, hey, how is a YouTuber going to get paid when people are on Twitter? Like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't make sense. So I just leaned into it. And then eventually, once the whitelist meta really kicked off, you then kind of saw, okay, you've got an audience. You can tell the audience what's cool and coming up, but you can also use this as a way to preempt getting whitelisted for things, just like Hape. It's like, cool, made a bunch of content. Then because it's easy to search stuff on Google, because if you type in like Hape Beast price prediction, I'm pretty much a video up there, because then I started to lean into all the knowledge that you have. You're going, cool, they've got like YouTube's invented chaptering. So how about I have a chapter called price prediction? What if I make the video title called Hape Beast price prediction? When someone types it in because they've seen it on Twitter, they search for it in Twitter, they can't get anything. They go to Google, they try it, they maybe see it, they then come across your video, which then means that you start building up an audience. Then hopefully the team sees something. Or if you want to, and it's not just with that, but just other projects and stuff nowadays, you can slide into the DMs of the founder going, hey, I made this video content, hope you like it. You're not saying, give me something. You're just saying, hey, I made this for you. Hopefully you like it. Most people are going to be like, wow, that's so cool. Thank you very much. What can I do? Would you like to have a spot? And it's like, this is just like, I'm not saying it's like scummy, slimy or whatever, but it's like, if you know how the game works, you can then use your skill set to then get those opportunities, because people on the timeline will be complaining like, oh, why does an influencer get this? Why does this person get this? Not realizing that I've spent 15 years creating content professionally to then do it for free, to then go backwards engineer, how do I get this spot or how do I get this opportunity? What about and I've said this to Building with Alex, Alex, who's a content creator like him. He loved it, because I go, if I'm creating a piece of content that I think is for a hyped upcoming project, the first thing I do is I jump into the DMs and I go, hey, I'm creating a piece of content on your project. Answer these questions for me, just in case they see it, because what are they going to do? They're going to be like, oh, cool. Well, yeah, the supply is this, the price is this, this is what it's going to be, irrespective of if you're going to make the content or not. Now you've got that warm intro, then you make the content, you slide into their DM going, hey, I made this content. Hopefully you like it. I think you guys are going to do quite well. Now you've got that warm intro, which means that you can then get that opportunity, which means that if you're in just that whitelist flip game, you've got that way to get that whitelist flip. People on the timeline are going to complain, but they didn't spend the hours and hours building up the audience, the hours and hours building up the skill set and the relationships to navigate the game to get to that point. And everyone's going to complain until they realize that a 2-minute video that they watch is 2 or 3 hours worth of effort that I've put in, and I'm not getting paid for it. I'm just putting the effort in, hoping that it leads to something later. So eventually, after a while of making content, it was just I'm learning I'm learning how to navigate the space. I'm making some good connections. I'm able to leverage what I've got to actually make some money and do well, and then refine that and just keep pushing forward with it. And this is why I like creating video content, because we went through a threads meta where everyone was creating threads, but no one creates few people create video content. And because you create video content, someone would go, hey, who are some of the best video content creators? It's going to be the same people that kind of will tag you in, because there's only such a handful of them. And because there's such a small group of people doing it, it means that you then rise to the top, which means that you've then got the attention. And where I know that Web3 is going to head as a whole, and I'm starting to see it a lot now, is when a big brand, legitimate business, whatever comes through, they want to do an ad spend on a marketing budget, because if you think about if Nike is going to run through a new campaign, they don't go, hey, let's post once to Instagram and just hope it goes viral. They spend money to make sure it gets somewhere. So eventually, when it matures properly, I know that in Web3, it's going to be, hey, there's going to be a new rewards or loyalty card or whatever that's happening for whatever brand business. The marketing company isn't going to hire someone with Web3 and go, hey, guys, can we do it all organically? The marketing person's going to be like, bro, we've got $10 million. We want you to do $1 million on influencer spend. We want you to do $1 million in ads. We want you to do $1 million here. Like, they're going to break that down. Yeah. And then when there's only 5 or 6 or 10 people, they're going to go, we need to do $1 million on ad spend. Who are the people that are tapped into that ecosystem? Mm-hmm. There you go. So that was the long tail idea of it. And it's why that through the bear market, everyone stopped posting. I'm like, the idea about posting through the bear market wasn't necessarily to kind of my thought process was, when I look back in years' time, on the resume, it's, hey, guess what? That person that's just come into the industry now or coming in now that's making content, where were they when we were all losing money? Where were they when FTX died? Where were they when this? Yeah. They weren't here. I've been in the trenches with you. I'm good to go. Then people go, shit, man, you've been here for a while. You actually have been putting out content consistently. You actually have been. You're an OG. You're with us. You're here, ride or die. We love you. And that's that process. That content that I put out, I might not be as pumped about it, but for me, it's that mentality of, you create the content, it's going to eventually get pushed back, and then there's going to be another piece of content. No one's going to watch the content from mid 2020, late 2022, but it's there when you're scrolling the feed. That's the resume, that's the portfolio, which then leads to the opportunities that you get now.
Yeah, dude, you said we're going to have to do offline. I would love to just make some video content series with you of just dropping knowledge on people and rolling it out together. I think we could do it, because so you said so many things. One of the things I think is really important as a content creator to reiterate and help people understand. And this is just basic sales 101, but creatives don't realize that, there's a lot of sales in creative, especially if you're trying to get your content seen. So for instance, my podcast, right? I must have talked to 100 people at least, if not more, to get one yes in the beginning when no one was watching my podcast and I was just starting. Fortunately, again, I lucked out because it was 2021, the whitelist meta was starting, and NFTs were what they never will be ever again. And we'll just never see what happened during that phase again. And so it was easy to at least get somebody.
Yes.
But I loved your strategy for a warm intro, which is, and you've heard this time and time again, but it is a very good strategy when you're starting out. Just make what you want to do creative for free. But the way you reach out and ask questions to make your creative better and more informative is genius. I love that strategy. So that's one thing I wanted to comment on. Two, this space will absolutely I worked for that billion-dollar company, right? And,
Mm.
once we made the $700,000 ad, I mean, dude, we wouldn't even blink. When YouTube was, like, really popping off and people didn't know about it before, I'm talking, like, 2010, 2011,
Yeah.
we're spending $250,000 for 24 hours. 24 hours of ad space on
Wow.
the homepage of YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that's how much money advertisers were spending, and it's going to continue to happen. So, to your point, I mean, I can count on maybe one hand the amount of live podcasters in the Web3 space, me being one of them.
Yeah.
And so, you talk about being in a niche space already and finding something to do that other people aren't doing. That's insanely helpful. I will agree that too. But back to relate to what we said, though, it has to be something, one, you're good at, and two, you're passionate about, or else you're never
Mm.
going to be successful. My question to you is, I see things getting saturated, even in Web3, in the sense that everybody wants to be a content creator now. It's
Yep.
been this narrative for the last probably 6 months, even to a year. Content creation's the new meta, right? What is your advice, knowing what you know now, on getting started? Like, because it can be overwhelming, but, I'm in Web3, I'm scrolling Twitter, I'm watching your videos on YouTube, I'm very intrigued about video content creation or just adding my creative sense in general. Like, what is your advice to that person?
If I would, so just say I was going to start right now from scratch. So I've got a twin. Bang! I'm like sort of duplicated. I've got a twin, and I need to go sort of like Nate V2. You're gonna like what I would tell him to do is find what you can do consistently. And I know that people say this all the time, but I'll kind of actually add some meat to it. But find what you can do consistently. So find what you could do daily without sort of blinking. That would then be the basis for what you're doing. But then also throw in what has high friction because, oh, I can easily tweet out GM every day. Yeah, that's good. But why does everyone tweet GM? Because it's easy enough to just like GM send. That's easy. But what's a high friction GM? A high friction GM would be you literally going like, "Hey guys, it's the sort of 30th of June. Good morning. Hopefully you have a great day." That is in itself, that as a GM, that friction is just like people can't do it because people are like, "Oh, but I don't look good. I don't sound good. I haven't done my hair. What clothes am I going to wear?" So much friction goes into even just picking up your phone and doing that. Like it's too hard. So I would go, what can you do on a daily that has high friction, which means that no one wants to do it or will do it for a longer period of time, which then means that as you start to do that over and over, you become that person that does that thing. So one thing that I always felt like someone should do, and I'm sure someone's done it, but just not, is taking like partnering up with a thread writer that's doing some threads and you just be the creating the video content of that thread, be it you reading the thread and just making it more engaging and interactive, but posting that to TikTok, YouTube, but then also Twitter as well. I'm going to be the same with you. I don't like calling it X, I like calling it Twitter. So the reason why that would make sense is like the very first TV shows, like the news shows, the newsreader was a newsreader sitting in front of the camera reading
Right,
the newspaper.
right.
That's how basic it was. Like it wasn't new content, it was taking the daily content and just giving it to someone in a different format. So if someone was like, "Hey, how can I create video content?" I'm like, why don't you reach out to a thread writer that's making some great threads and go, "Hey, I want to partner with you and you just give me the threads before you've posted them just so I can start to make the content. And then once you post them, I just want to like quote retweet that with the video breakdown of it." And then that's what I'll kind of do on Twitter. But I also want to put that up on YouTube. I want to put that up on TikTok. someone's going to be like, yeah, man, you can do that for sure. I'll let you know when I'm like writing that thread and I'm putting it out, because they feel like a big G. Someone going like, oh, cool. Like, I got some person that's going to make video content on my threads. That's sick. You don't have to do anything. You just go picture in picture, screen sharing, going, okay,
I
cool. So
love it,
here's
man.
like this thing, like, like that's a simple thing. Like, you could legitimately spend sort of 15 minutes a day making that content, template-ize the thumbnail, that then becomes your YouTube, sort of TikTok and X content or Twitter content, and people then go, oh wow, I love your I love like what you're doing, because then eventually you'll then have someone coming to you going, hey, I write banger threads, can you do something for me? You'll have a project that comes to you and goes, hey, we've got a bunch of money, or we've got some whitelist spots, can you do one of these video threads on my thing? Now you've become the video thread person, and then you'll just smash it. So like for me, it's like, it's finding that low friction, and that really isn't hard. The only reason I haven't done it is because I've built a brand, I've built a style of content that doesn't really suit that. But it's like, I could do it if I really wanted to. Just go picture in picture, read out a thread. Sounds dumb,
Hey,
but eventually you
hey,
get better at it.
I'm gonna cut you off on this because I think we have our first creative project together. We could crush that, bro.
Easy,
We could
easy.
crush that. That is our new side gig, maybe once a week. Nate, Mikey G, video thread tweets. I love it, man. That's it.
It's
No, that's what you're doing there again is one, figuring a way out to do something interesting for free by just helping somebody else, but also it's, everyone already thinks a Web3 is maxed out and there's no opportunity. That's just a simple idea that no one's even done. One of the people that have been on my show actually did another thing that I think is really interesting and I want to start doing too. How about just doing video replies?
That's
You
really good. I
you
love
you
that.
don't
That's
need to
good.
you don't need
Yeah.
to reply via text. You can reply via video to everything.
Yes.
Guess who's doing that? No one. And then
That's a good one.
to your point too, uh, there are just so few, and I love how you said this too. This is gonna be a great clip from this show. Find things that might seem mundane, but just go one extra notch because there's friction there. And your example is so beautiful. And I've done this with that same exact thought. I do good morning tweets, but guess what I do? I do it with video. And it's really not that hard. I press the button
No.
on my camera and I am myself. Now the difference is I don't give a shit what I look like, and I've been in front of camera for multiple years, so I'm comfortable with that. So there's
Mm.
more friction for other people, but for me, it's not that big of a deal, and not many people are doing it. So between video good morning tweets, replying to tweets via video, and Mikey G and NFTs Nate's new video threads, we already got a ton of ideas for newbies here to just start testing the
E
waters on. I think
exactly.
I think I have another follow-up here, which is that was just such a great response, by the way. I really appreciate that. So in this Web3 crazy ecosystem, kind of take me to we talked about 21, 2020 new, present day where you currently are. Throughout, let's say, the last year and a half to 2 years, what have you been learning? What are those skill sets that you think you've picked up that are really critical for people to be thinking about as they're creating content?
So, in terms like, so I'm going to break it down into a couple of different things. So the first one is the realization that no matter what you've done, the relationships you have, whatever it is, the person that you think is going to be there when things get tough, they're most likely going to dip, because there were so many people, and I've heard Crypto Gorilla speak about this. I think I spoke to him about it, but it's like, the person that is there, that's your warrior, that's like, hey, I love your content, love what you do, I'm going to be here forever.
Yeah,
um or the person that gives you a free NFT and goes, hey, this is worth like a lot of money, like whatever they are, things get tough, those people usually leave. And
yeah,
then when things come back and get good, doesn't matter how much of a grifter you are, people usually just welcome those people back. And it makes me kind of go like, I'm not saying I want to throw my ethics out the window, but it makes you go, if I'm trying to be a top bloke and a nice guy to absolutely everyone, when I look at them, like, I might have been gifted an NFT for free, and I'm like, cool, I could do with the extra $5,000, but I don't want to look like a dick to that person. Those NFTs that I got for free, those people then bounced. And I'm like, I could have had the extra, like, that extra $5,000 would have actually done something for me. Now it's
Yeah.
just sitting in the hidden portion of my wallet. And the realization was that the people that you think are going to be here forever, they're not going to be here forever. The people that you think that are grifters that are going to get hated on when they like leave or come back, they just get welcomed back with open arms. But it's usually because people think they can make money off them. Like, that's just it. And the whole, like, when you come with that mentality, it's like, cool, if you just fend for yourself in a way that aligns with who you are, it's like, then you're good. Like, if
Love
you
it.
gave me a free NFT, I'm going to hold it because, like, that's just it. That's good.
Yeah.
But if someone gifts me something for free, then do I hold it? Do I sell it off? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I hold things for relationships. I don't care. Like, I'll buy NFTs knowing it's a loss leader because that's a good relationship builder with someone. That's just what I do because I know that relationship's going to yield more later. But then what the past sort of like that period is like taught me, not necessarily a realization, but it's taught me that you need to be able to pivot and adapt to what the market is saying, doing, and wanting. So, like, I don't like looking at the comments. I don't like looking at the views, but I like looking at the views. Like, it's a thing where, like, I like to know what it's telling me, but I don't want to know what it's telling me because I want to be in my zone. And what I'm saying here is, I've changed my name on YouTube from NFT Nate to Nate's tokens because the word NFT has such a bad thing about it. Like, someone will just, like, you could go, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million. Someone's like, heck yeah, I'm going to give you $1 million NFT that has $1 million bids on it right now. Do you want to take it? No, they're a scam. I'm like, I'm legitimately giving you $1 million worth of liquid, but I'm giving it to you in a token that just has an N at the start. The non-fungible token. It's a, like, giving you $1 million in Bitcoin, you love it. Give you $1 million in Bitcoin, but it's a non-fungible Bitcoin. No, it's gross. So I learned to kind of, hey, maybe I adapt the name in that way, shape, or form. Nate's tokens, an NFT is still a fungible token. It's the T in token. But then it also went from, while NFT mints weren't popping off, what was I looking at? I was still looking at some airdrops. I was still looking at some other things and just sharing and evolving my way, shape, or form, and not being held to, like, evolve as a creator. And if you're evolving, your audience is most likely evolving as well. Give me 1 second. I think
Froze up on me.
Yeah. Yo, 1, 2, come on, bring it back. Come on, guys. Here we go.
I can hear your beautiful voice.
Yeah. Let me just, it's turn it off, turn it back on. Come on, Canon.
The good old Canon. I got a Lumix.
The thing is, I bought.
You were saying, like, you can still hear me though, right?
Yes, I can.
So you were saying something really interesting. This negative connotation of NFT. And actually seen a lot of content creators. I have Mikey D NFT in my name. I have actually recently thought about it, just changing it to Web3 because it's a broader term and it still rhymes. The only reason I did it is because it rhymed, right? But there's something to be said there. But I think the point that you made is the more poignant point, which people should be thinking about as a creator too. Because I think you can get very caught up in this too. People think brands are really logos and colors.
Yeah,
they're not. And brand, if you have, so for instance, my brand is bringing back the lost art of genuine human connection. My persona is to be genuine, to be heartfelt, and whether I'm right or wrong, you know that when I'm talking, I mean what I'm saying, right? That is my brand. So I can put many different colors around that. I can put many different names around that. Understanding that that's okay because brand is not those tangible things that everybody thinks. And when you think about brand, you have to. It is so critical to find that one sentence message statement to guide you through these waters, because things will change. That is
Yeah.
one thing that you're guaranteed with. What are your thoughts there?
Mm. Yeah, no, exactly. Like it's the what makes someone successful in the first place. They think that they need to stick with that, and they think that like they've created that brand, and then they grow on from that brand that they've created, and they think that they need to continue doing that thing, not realizing that like that brand, it does evolve. I've always kind of thought that uh, a brand, like you said, isn't like the logo or the colors. The brand is what the person that consumes it thinks that brand is. Like
Mm.
Nike is Nike, not because of what Nike thinks it is. Nike is Nike because of what we think it is.
Yeah.
We give the brand. So my audience, if they don't like a certain piece, like a certain piece of crypto technology, the audiences will evolve. They'll grow on. They'll kind of do that, and that's why it made sense for me to kind of go, hey, I shouldn't just make strict NFT content if that's not what I'm looking at that point in time. I got to create what's true to me, what opportunities I'm looking at, what I'm doing, which then means that most likely other people are looking at that as well. The meme coin trading, like I've made some tutorials on sort of like Telegram trading bots and trading them. It's not because I'm like, it's because everyone's talking about meme coins. It's because if you actually go to my meme coin, like my Telegram trading bots, I like the low friction of a Telegram trading bot. I genuinely like that I can be out shopping, get a ping, and someone's like, hey, someone's dropped this coin, throw in $10. It's a bit of fun. I don't have to get out a Web3 wallet. I don't have to go through that friction. It's like I just punch in a contract address and let it go. And I'm like, if I'm enjoying this, other people might also enjoy this. So why don't I make content about something that I'm enjoying, that
Right.
I'm possibly making money on? And that's where the brand has evolved. And that's why it doesn't matter if crypto, Web3 fizzled out, changed on. I would just keep moving and evolving that brand into where the opportunities are and what I'm interested in. And then hopefully you're going to lose some of the old audience, you'll gain some new, but then they all kind of like merge along.
Yeah.
Because
No,
every
no.
single content creator, like you look at the old YouTubers, the ones that kept doing the exact same thing over and over, their audiences grow. Like you and me from 2 or 3 years ago, in terms of like Web3 content, we're into something different now. And those people that were with us are also into something different. And it's silly to be trying to make content and speaking to a 2 or 3 year old version of us, because those aren't the people that are there anymore. They've evolved as well.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that's another great way or angle to look at it. Let's do this, man. We are fastly approaching 2 hours. I told you I could give you
Yeah.
we can go for 4 or 5 hours. We're gonna have to make some more content too. Take me through let's do this. Because I do want just a couple more thoughts about what
Yeah.
creatives could be thinking about. But before we do that, um actually trying to think real time. Let's do this. Next 6 to 12 months for you, what does that look like? What are you concentrating on? What are you excited about when you think about content creation, the Web3 space as a whole?
I am excited for, okay, next 6 to 12 months. I'm excited for the meme coinization of what we've seen. Like you've heard it being thrown around like the meme coin super cycle and that. The reason that I actually think that that is true is because of the reduced friction. One of the reasons that I think people liked getting into NFTs when that mania was on was because you could download a MetaMask wallet, send some Ethereum to it, then you could click mint, go to OpenSea, click sell, make money. That made sense. It was it was still high friction, but it was still relatively easy. It was that
Yeah.
fun, it was that thrill, it was that rush. When you look at the friction that's involved in meme coins and that kind of trading, the fact that you have all these bots, Telegram bots, like I've got my brother into trading meme coins. He doesn't own a single Web3 wallet, doesn't own a Coinbase account. He just goes, hey, I'll give you $100. Can you send me $100 in Solana? Send it to his Telegram thing. He's good. Like you can get people that are into sports betting, that are into gambling, that are into that, can speculate on this without even having to know that they're using Web3 to realize that they're using crypto. For them, it's just very simple. So I'm excited to see that play out. And in terms of content, the reason that I like that is because you're taking away, it's it feels incredibly Web3. And what I mean by that is, usually you have the on-ramps that are the Coinbases, the Binances, like all of those exchanges where you've got this big middleman that's KYCing money coming through. There's all this kind of stuff. Whereas right now, meme coins and trading meme coins are as PvP as you can get, but there's no middleman. Like, apart from you getting that first bit of coin on there, it's very on-chain in that you're trading on Telegram, you're going back and forth with someone. You can then have a non-KYC account with Photon or BullX to do some trading. It's low friction. It's very on-chain. It's very PvP. There's no man involved in it. It's very just like instant. It's very pulled in, and it feels fair. Like it finally feels fair. This feels like, and it also feels like when ordinals kind of, because I love ordinals feel like 2021 NFTs where it was fair. Things were cheap. You could buy them. There were no whitelist, and you would just buy something you like and it might appreciate in price. It's the same kind of thing here. All of the coins are 100% allocated. If you buy it and you like the meme, you can buy in early and there's upside and you can actually do quite well. And from the content creator side, and this is what, like, I'm trying to get my friend into doing this. The reason why it's great is the Telegram bots, they have there's a 1% trading fee with the buy and sell. That's just it. The referral fees are usually 10, 20, 30% of that 1%. So what happens is, if you go onto YouTube, people will be pushing every different type of Telegram trading bot, every type of bot and platform for the referral fees. And I've seen people earn some big money off those referral fees. And I then approach some of my content from, how can I provide value to the audience in a way that makes them go, I'm going to click this guy's referral link. And like, full disclosure, I'm making about one sol a week off different referral bots. Not not one sol in total. Like, this referral bot's giving me one sol a week. This referral bot's giving one sol a week, like that kind of thing, which means that now I've got a little kitty of a war chest that I can deploy into something else that I haven't had to fund anywhere. I've been able to create some content. I'm rewarded for providing good content. And I'm telling you, one of the Telegram trading bot videos, it is the most banger intro you've ever seen. Most people are like, hey guys, sorry, today we're going to be doing a tutorial. I'm literally, here are the 4 Telegram bots. We're going to buy one soul of dog with hat. We're going to test speed, transaction functionality. Here we go, bang, straight into it. Within the first 10 seconds, you into it. And people go, oh shit, this guy's like going hard and testing. Oh, did speed test, do all that, and go, here's what you can do. People then go, shit, that's a really good video. They watch it, good retention time, which means the algorithm pushes it, which means that you're actually rewarded because you're making more money off the referral fees. And people don't care about the referral fees because everyone's going to pay that 1% fee no matter what, but I get a kickback for it. It's not like you're making people pay for it. So the reason that I'm like, you can tell I'm running 100 miles an hour and I love it, is because we're getting to this point where it's PvP, it's fair, but the creators that are helping promote them, you actually end up in a good spot. Because, like, look, I like the team at Hate Beast and all of that. I make some videos. Sure, I got a whitelist to flip, but they made millions and millions of dollars. Did I ever receive a referral fee for it? No, I didn't. Did I receive anything apart from that whitelist that could turn into something, could not turn into something? You know what I mean? Like, there's that. And this where it feels very Web3. That's why I said it feels Web3. It feels very crypto, because the meme coins, someone can launch a meme coin. It's fair. You can get in early. You find it. If someone wants to promote a particular trading bot, a particular thing, they're rewarded accordingly. If I go, hey, I'm buying this meme coin, use this referral fee, I'm rewarded if you make money. I'm not rewarded if you don't make money. You make $1 million, you trade $1 million worth of stuff, you're going to have to pay that 1% fee. I'm rewarded by giving you good information and by getting that referral fee. And this is where I feel like it's maturing, and we're gonna get hit saturation at some point. But I feel like everyone's got a chance to actually kind of get in fairly, make some good cash if they're in the trenches and understand their memes and really want to play that game. But it's also rewarding the creators that can create high quality content to educate people on it, because I've not been rewarded in this way, shape, or form so decentralized in a way. Like I can educate someone on how to set up a MetaMask, how to set up a Phantom wallet, but is MetaMask and Phantom wallet paying me? No, they're not. I'm not getting a referral fee. But with these trading bots and these platforms, you are. And you don't have the hoops of, hey, use this Bybit link, and then you have to KYC this, you have to do this. There's like no struggles. It's like, cool, press this button in here, it'll open up Telegram, you're good to go. People like simple. I don't have to get out my ID and all of that. So this is why I like it. It's not just the money that's being made from it, but it's feeling real decentralized. Like right now, I could drop a link in the chat and going, here's my sort of Telegram link for Shuriken. I really like it. You click it and you're going, oh, okay, cool. Fund a wallet, send you a meme coin in 1 minute. You've got a meme coin that you've bought. And if you make $1 million of that meme coin, I get rewarded for it because we both share. That's what I'm excited for. And this is where I think the culmination of all this is coming together. And then, yeah, that's like I get excited for it and buy it because it finally feels like if you can make some good content, if you're good at shilling stuff and you're good at finding good examples. Okay. Have you ever played craps at the casino?
Yeah.
If you're winning and everyone else is putting money down, everyone's winning. That's what I like about it, because meme coins, it really does, like, especially when you get into the trading bots and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you're winning, everyone's winning. And that's what I like about it. It's not like I bought this NFT, I flipped it, and I'm out completely, because most people keep a moon bag. Most people are always in it. Like this is the fun vibe about it. And it's a casino. Like
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I can absolutely tell you're excited about this, and I can't wait to make some more new content. You said two things though that I think are general things. You did it in the context of meme coin, but I think this is what people need to hear as creators. One, it is critical that you provide value in some form or fashion. And you said it in a really interesting way to say there's plenty of people that are doing horrific tutorials, but you're doing short to the point, concise tutorials, and you're actually talking about their response time, ease of use. You're providing value in the sense of you're doing comparisons and letting the people know these are your thoughts in an interesting way. So one, as a content creator, if you're just making content and not providing value, you're going to be hard pressed to grow. Two, I had the thought and I just lost it. I don't know what the hell it was, man. It was such a good thought. I do this like once a stream now. I drank a lot of booze in my late 20s and early 30s, and I think it's eventually just kind of destroyed my brain cells. But that's neither here nor there. This is two more questions, and then we'll shut it down for the night. My wife's gonna kill me. We're supposed to go to Disneyland tomorrow early in the morning. I'm supposed to be helping her pack. I was like, "Oh, yeah, we'll be done by 9:30." And I knew once we had our little pre-game chat, I was like, "This is gonna be a long one," because I'm just gonna keep on asking questions. All right, two more questions, and we'll shut it down for the night. Last question. I want to go back to the creative thing. You've already gave a lot of good suggestions, and this is a big question, put it on a spot. But number one advice, somebody that is in Web3, let's go back out of meme coins, just Web3 in the crypto Twitter space in general. Number one advice, man, what are you really having them concentrate on?
Consistency. It doesn't matter what it is, how good your content is, it's consistency, because the moment you stop is the moment that momentum finishes. And then when you realize that you had that momentum, you've lost it. It's that consistency. You go hard for 3 months, you think it's not working. By the time you get to month 6, you realize that at 3 months, you were hauling ass and you'd be 4 times better than you were at 6 months, but you've stopped. Now you're basically going back. Consistency. Doesn't matter how good it is, how bad it is, whatever. Like, touching on that thing, just say you're not even providing value, but you're consistent. You're going to get bored with not providing value. You're then going to start to provide value. Just
I love that.
Inherently.
Yeah. Or you're just gonna get bored by no one giving a shit about your content.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And you're gonna be like, oh, something's got to change. No, that is, and we actually talk about from more of an entrepreneurship business success principle. I would put probably I always say consistency, but I'll add this, the second part, consistency over a long period of time. And I
Yes.
define long period of time by not months, not a year, but multiple years, a decade, right?
Mm.
That's a long period of time. So get ready to, hunker down and do at it for a long time. I've been podcasting for 4 years now, and I feel like just this year, things are starting to pick up.
Mm.
And we both went through the crazy I've made some money. I've also lost some money, but I'm saying from a personal creative
Yeah.
growth standpoint and being able to, be noticed for the quality or type of content I'm putting out, that's starting to happen, but that's it's been a long time, man.
Yeah.
So I love that advice. Last question. I always ask this, midlife. Like I said, man, I could go on for another 2 or 3 hours, but I gotta cut it because I am gonna get skewered in the back by my wife, and I don't want that to happen because it would be painful.
Yeah.
Last question for the podcast. You've been in a bajillion spaces. You've probably held your own podcast. How did your time on the podcast tonight go? Give me your honest truth. Always looking for feedback, my friend.
I it's hard because I don't really like. I'm a very value upfront person. If I was going to redo this again, I would be like almost flip it and be like, hey, because this is just my YouTube head going. I would
Yeah,
flip it and be like, cool. What are the 3 tips you could give someone that's into into sort of content creation? How can you make money? Smash those little bits, which then people go, wait, those are some good things. How did he get to that point? Then you're
yeah,
going, wait, so where did it start again? But for me, that's because I'm coming from a high retention YouTube background. So like I get pumped and excited for giving like the nuts and bolts. Here's what I would do to make some cash trading or like creating content, making meme coins.
yeah,
And I don't mind talking about the past and the history, but I almost go like, I want to Christopher Nolan this thing and just make it so weird in a way that people go like, oh, they're hit with that stuff. But then saying that, like, if I was going to edit this up, I would make this a 1 minute intro with all of this good stuff that make people go, fuck, I need to listen to the entire thing because that is a good nugget. Like that's it. So
yeah,
this is why it's hard because it's like, I'm not saying the podcast's good or bad because I'm not in control of it because I'm not the client. It's
yeah,
hard because if I was the client, like if I was in your position, I'd be like, fucking hell, I killed it. I know exactly how this edit's going to work out. I know what the intro is going to be. I know how like the structure of the story and I know how
yeah,
it's going to go. But because I'm the guest, it's really hard for me to kind of give that positioning because I don't know what's in your head. And in your head, I'm sure it's pieced together like what you would do and how it would work. Do you know what I mean? Like this,
yeah,
this is
no,
where it gets hard because
I love it,
I'm not
man,
the
because
I'm not the client.
I've never actually gotten creative feedback from it, and I think it's interesting, and that, it's a product of my brand, my product, right,
Mm,
too, and it's really interesting to hear how you would do that, and I think this is the thing that I think about often is I have a very long format podcast. Majority of people that come on, they like the experience, but then it's not everybody's gonna listen to a 2-hour conversation, right? But there's
mm,
so many nuggets that we just went
yeah.
through, and it is a big task to watch through this
Yes.
whole thing and then pull out 15 to 20 nuggets and then appropriately cut and edit that together and then make something interesting. Uh,
Exactly.
so yeah, how do you solve that problem? I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. But it's great feedback, and I
It's one of
know.
those things where it's yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
go, sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like when I'm shooting, I'm already thinking about the edit. So by the time I finish shooting, I know what the edit is. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
literally just me going through and doing it. And this is where like it's a it's a difficult thing because like I'm sitting in this position where it's like I'm answering the questions and I'm going like, fuck, that was a good nugget. This is how I do. Like as I was like telling stuff, I'm like, cool, I'd do that, or I'd put a flash transition there, but in there, like I'm telling you what I was saying, and I'm in my head, I'm going, yep, I know where that is, and like I even know like the folder structure. I'm like, cool, if I go into presets and then go into filters and then go down to the real clutter number 3, I'll put that in. I know, like I in my mind, it's already just ticking together. And this is where it gets
amazing feedback.
it gets
Yeah,
nuts.
I'll definitely want to have a post follow-up conversation about video creation and your thought process about how do you quell these incredible conversations down to like an efficient post-production process. I think we'd have a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my closing comments and then we'll call it a night. And, I think this is a magical, beautiful conversation. So a couple things stick out to me. One, I can tell you're insanely passionate about what you do. I really appreciate that because there's people that know a lot of things, but you don't feel the energy. You know a lot of things, and I feel the energy. And I'm the same way. I like to exude my energy and my genuineness and just my excitement for people. And you do the same thing. So that was awesome to see. Two, I like how many just little nuggets that you gave, and I like your perspectives, like, just even going back to, how to do an interesting warm intro as a creative, right? Providing value in your own way. Like, you had all of these different nuggets, and you've set them in a unique way. They're common principles I've heard, but I really like your explanations of them. And those are the nuggets that are going to make great content for both of us to cut up and share on the line on the timeline as well. And then three, not only the energy, I can tell you're genuine as well. And I say this a lot, well, not all the time, but I mean this one. I really do. We kind of just built a friendship online, live on X with a bunch of people watching us. It's a beautiful thing. I really do want to figure out how we can collaborate in the future as content creators together. I believe I've seen your content. I've paid attention to you over the couple years, and I think we could do some really magical things together. And then finally, dude, we're both busy. We both have families. This was 2 hours of your time. That is the best thing, a gift that you could give anybody like me as a content creator. So I really appreciate it, man. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the chat. It's good.
Absolutely. And with that being said, people, we will be back Tuesday night with JR Art Space from the one and only District and Oni Force. It was an amazing conversation. I hope the aspiring content creators that out there listening and get ready, because we've got one of the best video editors in the space that hopefully will cut some of these nuggets up, get them out there. If not, I will be doing that. We love you all. Mikey G and Nate are out.